Okay, looks like we are at 5:02. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to your facilitator, Tiffany Williams.
Hello, everyone, developers and entrepreneurs. We are so glad to have you back with us today. It is a wonderful day because we're here. So we are going to get started, and we are absolutely ecstatic to have L Holmes with us, Miss Marissa Tribble, and she's going to be speaking with us first. She is the loan officer at L Home, and she's going to be speaking with us first. And I know you guys are excited to learn, hey, where we can find some money at. And she's going to tell us what they offer and what kind of programs that they have. So that way, that is just another resource in your toolbox you'll have when you start planning and start developing and doing your project. So I'm not going to delay any further. We are glad to have you, Miss Marissa, and feel free to take it away.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I appreciate the opportunity to be amongst the audience here. Such a pleasure. As Tiffany mentioned, I am the loan officer with L Home. We are a mission-driven nonprofit financial institution located here in Louisville. I kind of like to say we're a hidden jewel because we've actually been in the area for over 10 years. We were established in 2011. And we're located right a little bit past the intersection of Taylor Boulevard and Berry. So we are local in here. As I mentioned before, L Home is a mission-driven nonprofit financial institution. And we provide affordable loans to our low-income homeowners throughout the community, our small businesses, and our minority populations throughout the Jefferson County area. Not only do we provide lending opportunities, but we also provide financial coaching services. And those services that I'm pleased to announce, you do not have to necessarily take a loan out with us in order to take advantage of the coaching of it there. We have 3 amazing team members who really work well with our client base to try to get to know them individually and as entrepreneurs and help them along their journey to get to their financial goals. With our lending focusing on Jefferson County and the minority population, we will help anyone within Louisville, but we intentionally specify a set number of our goals to be geared towards our community that looks like us and be able to provide the capital that has been underfunded and underserved in certain areas. So we would love to be able to help you along your way in any form. Some of the loans that we provide are consumer loans that actually help with our customers on their property taxes, whether it's past due or current property taxes. We really believe that homeownership is a true source of generational wealth. So we hate to see our hardworking community members lose their home that could be passed down to generations simply because of a $1,000 tax bill that they just weren't able to pay. So we do provide those opportunities. We also provide consumer lending for home renovations. So if you're a homeowner out there in Jefferson County and you want to do some upgrades to your kitchen, we do have $50,000 worth of funding. And our consumer loans can be as low as 3% for the interest rate. So it's very competitive. We try to minimize the out-of-pocket expenses by having just a simple small application fee of about $25. Other than that, any other fees associated could be factored into the loan. So we try to make it a very budget-friendly product for everyone in our community. Not only do we provide funding for consumers, but we also have the business loans that meet a wide range of needs. They can minimize from a minimum of $5,000 all the way up to $150,000 in funding. For L Home, we're a very small organization with less than 20 employees, and we've recently made this jump into offering larger loans just in the last few months. Over the years, we pretty much range from $15,000 to $30,000 as a max, but we realize that the need is out there for more capital for our entrepreneurs. So we really fought hard to be able to provide the extended capital to everyone. Now, with these business loans, they're very flexible ones that meet just about every entrepreneurial need. You could be the entrepreneur that's in the startup phase with an idea or a thought, and you want to know what direction to go into. And we have funding for those opportunities, whether you may have some credit challenges or collateral obstacles to overcome as well. We have character-based lending for those situations where it's not solely based on a credit score. We understand that every person is more than a credit score, and that your payment history is significant to how your loan can be factored as a risk or not, but it also tells a story. You know, if you've had perfect credit, but 6 years ago there were a few blemishes, obviously something happened during that time frame. So LHOME understands those situations, and we take that in consideration. So not only the startup, we can have the large company that's been in existence for a while and want to maybe expand. We have loans for that. And recently, as of last fall, we started lending opportunities for our small business owners that may have had impacted from COVID, whether it's shutdown restrictions or complete change in your employment industry. If you've decided to take a side hustle and make it your main income source, we've got a special program specifically for you. And that is part of our funding that could possibly go up to the $150,000 max. Those rates are extremely flexible as well. They could be as low as 3%, and our maximum rate could go up to 8%, depending just on the risk factors. So one of the loans that I think fits this audience specifically is our small developer loan. This one is our loan that is geared specifically for the property investor, the one who may want to get in, purchase the property, renovate it, turn it around, sell it for a profit, and move on to the next investment opportunity. So with that quick turnaround in mind, we created a product that is a short-term loan of 1 year, and it provides capital specifically for renovations. So we aren't able to provide funding for you to purchase the home, but once you get that property, we'll be able to help you with being able to get those renovations taken care of. So with that $30,000 maximum for 12 months, it is at a rate of 11%. So we have also been able to provide that loan for 11 monthly payments that is interest only. So if you're not fully having a profit yet, and this may be your second investment property, we understand that budgets might be a little tight. So for that 1st through 11th month, we are only requiring interest only payments. Now, once maturity does arise, which would be at that 12-month time frame, that's when a full balloon payment is expected of the remaining balance. Now, once again, this product is designed for the investor that wants to get in and out. So generally that gives times for renovations and opportunity to place the home on the market and sell it for a profit. We have on occasions provided this loan for real estate investors that maybe want to keep the property as a source of rental income, and that's fine as well. We just recommend that you keep in mind that that 12-month time frame still exists, and maybe with the renovations that you have done, you might be able to get financing for the upgraded equity to be able to pay our loan off. So it's still an opportunity even in those situations to get capital from LHOME. One of the good things I mentioned before with LHOME is that we're just not an organization that looks at solely of credit. So we pull a soft credit for you, or excuse me, we make a soft credit pull so that we don't have a negative impact on your score while we're doing our underwriting process. And we're simply looking for 3 things initially, just to move on to the next phase. For LHOME, we require a minimum credit score of a 540. So it's very flexible, very competitive compared to traditional banking. And the other factors we look for is to just ensure that you do not have a bankruptcy or a foreclosure within the last 3 years. Now, with that credit check, again, I want to emphasize that we do look at payment history. We don't hold one little hiccup, maybe even two little hiccups, or a medical charge off. We don't hold those against you. As a nonprofit organization, our main mission is to get money in the hands of the community. We truly want to be able to build wealth for our community members and provide capital that traditionally has not been provided in certain areas of Louisville. So please don't feel like a credit is going to be an end all when it comes to LHOME. We're very flexible and we love to work with everyone where they are in their journey. Now, the only fee that you might experience with this product is a small credit check fee of $50 that would be needed up front. But other than that, the closing cost or origination fees are very flexible, meaning it's only 2%. And it also can be financed into the loan if it's not an expense you want to pay up front. Now, I know I've mentioned a few different products, and some of these could be the startup, the investor for property, just as many as you could think of. But before you even get to the financing or signing on the dotted line, there are a few things that I feel like every person needs to consider before making that jump into signing up for financing. First of all, take a few moments and learn what your score is. It's good to know your score is your tool to getting you where you want to go. So are you in the great category? Are you in the need work category? That's quite all right. The best tool you can have is knowing where you are and going from there. So once you know what your score is, we also recommend that you review your credit report. Look for any blemishes. Learn if that past due payment from 6 years ago is still showing up on there. And take a moment to look at your overall debt. Sometimes you can heavily be indebted through credit card, or maybe you have other type of lending like installment, car loans, those type of things. And maybe you need to expand it, or there might be type of debt that you didn't even realize on there could be fraudulent. So obviously, once you have a chance to review your credit, you may be able to realize that some of that debt is just unnecessary debt. If you have the opportunity before you jump into a lengthy loan or a high balance loan, I recommend minimizing your debt as much as possible. If you've got a credit card that you can successfully pay down a little bit more or pay off preferably without putting yourself in a bind, please do so. And I also recommend to minimize your number of inquiries that you're going to do for at least a good 3 to 6 months prior to applying for any sort of funding. And that goes for consumers, business lending altogether. Another opportunity that you can think of is considering all your funding options. As soon as we think of needing money, usually the first thing that comes to our mind is our bank. Let me run down to the corner bank, see what they got going for me. Or let me go to the credit union, or even me and you want to come to a CDFI. But there could be funding opportunities that are just sitting right there next to you that you're not even aware of. My coworker and our small business coach, Jamie and Keith, who wasn't able to join with us today, her favorite word or phrase is to think outside the box. There could be funding opportunities right at your fingertips by researching what your local government has going on. Sometimes they have funding, they have programs that they haven't even marketed or mentioned to the community, but it's there for you to take advantage of. You may not even be aware that within your own circle, you have funding opportunities. Sometimes it could be close friends, it could be family members that are looking for investment opportunities and are willing to take a moment and be a part of your entrepreneur journey. Once you've got an idea of what your opportunities are, your options, you know where your debt is, you've looked at your score, then you want to sit down and have a game plan. You know, I do have people who come to me all the time with great aspirations, but really is, you know, just because I offer you $150,000, is that really what you need? Would you be able to really pay that back? So we have to be realistic about considering and balancing needs and ability or capacity to be able to pay that back. And during that game plan, especially as an investment in property, one of the things you want to consider are all the what ifs. What if I get in that property as a small investor and knock a wall down and there's mold? What if I get in there and the wiring is just horrible and I've got to rewire the whole building? You have to consider, is this funding going to be able to support any what if situations I run into? Or if it doesn't, you know, what are my other options? Do I have a plan B? And sometimes is there a plan C if something like that happens? Then you want to consider your time frame, your maximum investment, and what's your risk level. For our product, as I mentioned, we give you a 1-year time frame to get in and out. Is that enough for the market right now? Selling homes is a hot spot right now, so it might just very well be. But if you've got a really tough project and COVID has also created shipping issues and higher pricing, things like that, that may delay the renovation process, even though the selling process can be extremely quick. So there's a lot of balances going on there. And risk levels, as I mentioned. Not everyone's a daredevil, and that's completely okay. And being an entrepreneur, I think you guys are already out there establishing your niche, realizing opportunities, and taking advantage of it. So you might be already a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to taking on a little bit of risk. But everyone has variances on what they can handle, whether it's financially or on a stress level. And so it's good to sit down and truly think these through before you sign on any sort of dotted lines. I also recommend, as an entrepreneur, to find a mentor. This academy right here is getting you connected to other individuals throughout the industry in different ways. And there's plethora of opportunities throughout the community to find a mentor in your industry. Your mentor can not only give you amazing tips that they have learned along their journey, that can prevent you or help you avoid the pitfalls that they may have experienced. And they can also provide great tips to maybe get you a couple steps ahead that you weren't even aware of. And along this way, they may know great partnerships, meaning they may have someone that can clear out that property and save you a whole day of work. And it's cheaper going with this gentleman versus you spending a day and renting out equipment yourself. So mentors are out there, and there's plenty of people who have been in your shoes, who have experienced things that you're experiencing now, and would love to be able to pass that information on. And finally, once you think you're ready to go sign on those dotted lines, I highly suggest shopping around. I know you love your credit union and you've been there for 10 years, but maybe that credit union's rates really isn't going to fit your need. It may sound great, but you might actually be able to get a better rate down the street from the big bank or the small bank that has only a couple of locations. There's nothing wrong with shopping around. What I suggest is take a few days, go into a bank, introduce yourself, bring a pencil, piece of paper, or your phone if you're more technically advanced than I am. But I highly suggest using that to jot down information. I've worked in the finance world and banking for over 20 years, and I've seen all different types of bankers. And you've got the one who, like myself, whenever I met new individuals who were interested in learning on how I can help them meet their financial goals, I never even touched my computer. There's no reason that a banker should come to you and say, you know, Mr. Smith, I'd love to help you with financing that investment opportunity, but let me get your Social Security number first. No, that banker is just looking for an opportunity to meet his numbers and not your financial goals. So just as I could stay right here and tell you what our maximum amount is for our product or what our interest rate range is. Every banker is able to do the same thing without getting any of your credit information. If they immediately start with that route, please don't feel pressured like you have to apply for anything just to find information out. Every inquiry can affect you negatively, and we just don't want, I feel like you should treasure your credit. So you don't have to give it out to everyone, and you should make that bank earn your credit and your business. So it's perfectly fine when you are out shopping around to take a few days to ponder the information you've learned, so that way you can really know that you're making the best choice for your situation. Is this going to get me to where I'm going to go? Is this best for me? And it's good to maybe ask other people who you trust their opinion and value and think that they may be able to give you some insight on these options. When it comes to finding financing, these financial institutions, and including myself at CDFIs, we're asking you to commit to us for years, a couple years. So I feel as a banker, you should be able to provide your customers a few days to ponder if these decisions are going to meet their needs. So what I mentioned before, for knowing your score, understanding what's on your credit, try to attempt to minimize your debt and consider all your funding opportunities, which may not necessarily be the traditional ones that you're used to. Provide a game plan and seek out mentors that are also in the similar industry that you're in. And once you've got your to-go list ready, do your research, take your time, don't feel pressured, and make the choice that's best for you. Now, once you're out there, we'd love to be able to help you at L Home. And one of the best things about L Home is not only do we provide funding, we provide coaching, as I mentioned before. You don't necessarily have to even be in the lending process, but we're here to meet you where you are and help you get your finances in order, or help you determine what's the best path for you. And what we will do is I will provide my information here in the bottom in a chat way if you want to find different ways to contact me with any questions or concerns. I'd love to be able to reach out to you and help you meet your goals. This is an amazing opportunity. I love all the education that we are providing to our community that has never been out there as much as it is now. So I'm so excited to see people take advantage of an informational courses Academy is offering here. Are there any questions so far that I can answer?
All right, guys, this is our opportunity.
Oh, and I do apologize. My associate, Jamie Keith, our small business coach, is here with us as well.
Oh, hello. Would you like to have a word to say?
Well, first of all, thank you all for, as Marissa said, to have a serious guest to speak from our perspective about this program and the opportunities that lie ahead. My apologies for running late, but I was doing exactly what I do, and that is speaking with one of my clients. So she said, I gotta go, but one more thing. She did that like 3 times, but that's okay. That's what we do. And I knew I'd come tune in at some point. But just to piggyback off what Marissa said, one of the things that I think is important, and thank you for quoting me, Marissa, on thinking outside the box. I also tell them at work, I live out there, so roomy. But, you know, don't, as you're going along, and I don't know how many of you all here are already dabbling or are doing your real estate ventures and are already in some sort of company position, either whether yourself or another doing it, but always be prepared to morph, MORPH. Always be prepared to morph, because, you know, you can make the most wonderful, beautiful, eloquent speech. You can make the same thing on paper. When it gets into the world itself, it turns. That's why we have seasons. It is what it is. And you're designed to change. Situations are designed to change and grow. So I would encourage you, especially if you're in the infantile stages of what you're doing, maybe planning and using this course to help you fine tune, that you would also think to yourself, what are maybe 2 or 3 ways that I can approach getting to what I want to be my end goal? What are the resources that I have my free ones and the ones I might have to pay for? Who are people that are supporting me? Surround yourself with people that are going to speak positivity into you and support what you're doing, because you're not doing what I would consider, I want to preface it with me because others may feel different, a traditional type of business where you have a product that you're trying to move, where you have a specific service that you're trying to provide. You are starting off investing in something or someone else. And then on top of that, you're wanting to make modifications and improvements on that situation so that you in turn can give someone else an opportunity to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's a very special, in some ways, very benevolent way to do business. So just remember that, going in, it may seem like you're doing things and it feels lopsided along the way, but it'll pay off in the end. As a coach, I would extremely recommend that you take advantage not just of what we do at El Home, but here, which you're already being provided at LCCC, but other opportunities, not just for mentors, but colleagues. Within your own cohort that you have here, you have people that are doing what you're doing. Learn from one another. If somebody accidentally fell in the mud, hey, and they're dusting off, don't go that way. Ask them what happened. How did that pretty piece of land turn into mud? So don't be afraid to share with one another. There's room for everyone. There is room for everyone. So be together on one accord and encourage one another, help one another. And who knows, some of you all may even come together and form your own oligopoly or company along the way. You never know. So just be open to that as well. That when you have more people involved, there is strength in numbers. All you need to do is make sure everybody's on the same page. Sometimes you got to put it on paper to get there, but that's what you do. And that way everybody knows what they're getting into when they get in. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
No, that's absolutely true. Thank you both, because you have definitely dropped some jewels, and I hope everybody picked that up. Some of the stuff that we had already been speaking about, and it just kind of brought it all home and brought it together. And that's definitely one of the things we're trying to do with this academy, is to, first of all, understand that you can do it, and we are a support system to help you get there. But also that it has not been, traditional in our community that we come together. And so we're definitely trying to make sure that we come together, support each other. And like you said, believe it or not, there is enough for everybody out there. Because no two people can do it the same way. So absolutely make sure you take advantage of each other, make sure you take advantage of the information. And even if you don't do it now, when you do it, you're going to have the steps and the resources to really think about your project, your company, how to get it started, the financing, and what it all means to you. And then you can present it to others as well. So absolutely wonderful. It was a couple of things that I did not know El Home provided. So definitely I'll be passing it on not only to myself for my own purpose, but also to my clients as well, that can really benefit from that, because it is a great resource. Again, it's for the community, and that's what they have in mind, is building up the community. So it might be a little bit different than your, traditional finance banks and things like that. And that's one of the things that makes it really great and wonderful, is that they see the need and are trying to fill that need and help us raise up. So take advantage of it. This is definitely one you need to put in your toolbox and keep that information handy. Let me see if we have any questions. Again, guys, feel free to ask any questions. That's what we're here for. Okay, there's one question. Is there a cost for the coaching? Is there a cost for coaching?
No.
As a matter of fact, oh, go ahead, Marissa.
No, I was just going to say, no, there isn't. And I was going to let you take it away. Go right ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, I'll put it in the chat because I saw the question come up. And
there you go.
we're glad to provide that for you. I will say that as we are coaching, they're coaching on different levels. For example, when you first decide to either call us, or if you're on our website and decide to maybe do an inquiry form about a business loan or coaching, that will spawn someone to call you. And once we make that call, we can help you to determine where you might need to to stop first. Some people say, I want to get a loan. I'm ready. I got my business. You got your name, you're registered, the whole nine. And then when I ask you something about, do you have your P&Ls ready? Then people start to panic and freak out. So, that tells us that we need to stop for just a moment. We're not exactly ready to begin the loan process because there's other factors that must be done. Whether you go to L Home or any of the local banks or any type of, even the SBA, there's some things that are non-negotiable. And those non-negotiables are, in a nutshell, things to prove that you are a bona fide business at the end of the day. So with that in mind, we start to go through those things with you. We can provide you the tools. I know if anyone's here that's ever worked with me before, I say little homework assignments to get you where you need to be. And then we confer, and I will make sure, along with the rest of the coaching team, that you are ready. And once you have your documentation together, then we can look at proceeding with the loan. It doesn't take all day, but it isn't a rush job either. So that varies from person to person, business to business, because as an entrepreneur, you're doing some of everything. And we realize that. So we understand that you may not be able to sit on the phone for a long period of time, that you may not be able to dedicate something the very next day. So we work with you where you are and get you where you need to be.
All right, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And that information, contact information has been provided in our chat, and we will have that on our site as well. So if you do miss it right now, we can make sure that it is one of the resources that we have on our site. And I forgot what how you can screenshot that too. I know they've said it a million times on here. But absolutely, we'll make sure that you guys have that information. There was a question in here. What banks offer business credit based on business EIN number? That's a good question. I'm not sure of that. Are you able to speak on that, Miss Marissa?
Yes. Off the top of my head, well, now that I'm thinking about it, I think all traditional banks factor both sources of personal and business credit when establishing business. Especially with COVID, a lot of traditional banks pivoted themselves on how they provided financing to customers, and unfortunately resulted in stricter regulations. And so part of that also came out of that, where they would review personal credit and to ensure, one side isn't more inflated than the other, and both seem to be pretty strong. So when it comes to solely reporting on the credit, you may want to ask each company, but I do know in generating the credit, they'll both look at both sides. Very few companies and on the small business side start off on the credit side of the business. More when you get to large corporations is that when something happens. But I do highly recommend that be one of your questions that you may jot down as you shop around. There may be one of the smaller banks that I'm just not as familiar with that will provide that. Now, I do want to say L Home has recently adjusted our reporting standards. One of the things we realized with our community is that business credit was a challenge. It's hard to get out there, get it established and everything. So Jamie and I came to L Home at the same time, almost a year and a half ago. And there were some challenges there were some amazing things that's brought us to the organization and has kept us there because we're so mission aligned. But there were some things that needed to be tweaked just a little bit that we felt were better fit for our community. And one of those things that we started as of January 1st is reporting business loans solely on the business side. So we will function like a bank and review both sides, business and personal, to come to a full decision. If you don't have business credit, that is more than okay with us. That's why we look at it what we call a global view. That's not going to get you turned down. You don't have to have that 2 years behind your belt already. So, but once we get that yes, we understand establishing business credit is a must for our community. So as of January 1st this year, L Home reports business loans specifically on business credit only. Only time it should impact your personal credit if for some reason, obviously if the loan would have to be charged off, then it's reported on both sides. Not only was establishing business credit very important to us, but we realized as we were expanding our dollar amounts of our loans to $150,000, if we were reporting $150,000 on someone's personal credit, that would be a huge impact on their debt to income level. And that could shatter one's dream of trying to buy a home, because that's the price of a small home right there. So that is one of the many things that Jamie and I fought hard for to get adjusted. And so it has come to fruit as of January 1st. So.
That is absolutely awesome. And believe it or not, that is one of the topics that we had not touched on, which is business credit. And we will definitely have to touch on that subject and just make sure that everybody has a basic understanding of what that means. And as you said, it is a hard thing to do for a small business, is to get that business credit started, where it's not looking at your personal too much, but more looking at your business and your business standing alone and how the business pays the bills and not your personal. And how your personal pays the bills, because it is two separate things. And you might be, sacrificing on your personal to keep your business going on. And so your business credit might look a little bit better than your personal, things of that nature. But absolutely, that is good. I'm putting that on my list that we're going to come back and we're going to have some discussion on that business credit and get everybody familiar with that. Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Any other questions that we have, guys, on any of the products, what to look for, anything on the criteria that you might want to know about? Feel free to put it in the chat or either raise your hand. Okay, we have Miss Rachel. She has her hand raised, and we're going to, you go ahead, you're unmuted.
Thank you, and good evening. First, I would say thank you to Jamie and Marissa for being here. I actually went to your website today because it was announced on Business First that Keith Talley was coming to El Home as the executive director. And so he used to be my director. And so I went to the site to see if El Home was what I thought it was, because I associated it with Amy Shire. I think that's how you say her name. But when I tried to click on the calendar to schedule an appointment, it came up that somebody named Santrice Martin or something is not available. And so it didn't give me the opportunity to do that. So you might want to look at the website. It is strictly a coincidence that was where I was today and that I tried to make an appointment to be able to, kind of talk through where I am right now. And so just as FYI.
I so appreciate you mentioning that, Rachel. We have realized that we are still evolving on our website. And one of the topics that we realize we need to adjust is how our customers get their information to us, just as you're mentioning. Right now, the only way to have someone reach out to us, it gives the impression that you're actually applying for a loan, because you actually have to click loan inquiry form and list your name and number, and that's how a person reaches out to us. So we are in the process of expanding the development of our website to do just as you mentioned, Rachel, to provide an inquiry form that is more geared towards truly inquiring and not giving the impression that you are going towards the lending side.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, wonderful. One more question we do have in the chat room. It says, does El Home do tax credits?
We do not do tax credit. The only thing we touch on when it comes to taxes is property tax loans, just for current or past due ones, but nothing beyond that.
Excellent. And tax credit is, of course, with the opportunity zones. You hear a lot about tax credits, also with the possibly with the TIF that's coming, possibly coming. So we will dig into tax credits also. That'll be another topic we talk about, because it is important to understand what a tax credit is and how it can help you. But a tax credit is one of those items that is good to know about, have it in your tool belt, but it's not something that is short term. It's a very long-term strategy. And you do have to be prepared and be ready for that, because it is a lot of documentation that goes along with that, and the government is very heavily involved in those tax credits. But again, it's good for you to know about it. We won't do a whole in-depth on it, but I do want you to know about it. And that way, if you hear about it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I get it, I understand. And as you guys grow, and for some that are already at that level, a tax credit might be exactly what you're looking to do. So absolutely, you got all these different funding things and funding sources. So we're going to try to touch on all of them for you. And it's so wonderful to hear that, somebody was, heard it on Business First. Business First is like I said, it's a great way to just keep informed of what's going on in the community and what's happening. Be on the lookout, social media for different forums that are happening, things like that. I kid you not, I just happened to be on Facebook yesterday and saw that Louisville Forum had a luncheon today about the state of West End Louisville. And it's open to the public and things like that. So I was like, I want to go check it out. And it absolutely was a great lunch. And our Mr. Kevin Fields, he was there. He was one of the speakers and talked about, economic development and what the economics is in this area. Also had Devon Hope there. And I do apologize. It was another doctor who's over Norton's. He was there speaking as well. So it just keeps you in the loop. It's also a great way of networking. Great way of networking, and met a lot of people that was like-minded and wanted to know what's our next move, what's going on development wise. They talked about, gentrification. How do we do that without, kicking people out, and, but yet understanding that we still need that development, because that's what's been missing in our community. So we have to move forward, but how do we do that in a way that's not kicking people out? So again, don't underestimate those social medias and those trades and things like that to keep informed of what's going on out there in the area that you want to develop in. So very important. And I truly thank you ladies for being with us, sharing the information with us. You are more than welcome to stay on. I don't see any more questions out there, but of course, guys, if you do come up with something, you think of something later on, that's what we're here for. So I thank you, Miss Marissa and Miss Jamie. Again, you are welcome to stay on, but if not, we totally understand, and we appreciate all that you've done and the great information that you have provided us today.
Yes, thank you all so much once again for this opportunity. And if I could just mention something, piggybacking off of what you said about gentrification, this is why what you all are here tonight to do, and to gather and glean as much as you can from one another and the leadership of this particular cohort, which I'm grateful for, because we literally had some conversations about this type of training to exist. So I'm really glad to see it come about, and literally in the midst of our conversations. You all are part of the answer to prevent gentrification. We need to invest in ourselves, and that's what you all want to do. And so I'm grateful that you all are here to do what you do, and I cannot wait to see some of the end results. On that note, I will bid you adieu. I have a date with my daughter tonight, so.
Amen, amen.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. Bye, Jamie. I appreciate being a part of this. And this has been an amazing opportunity. I can piggyback on what Jamie has said. I love seeing us invest in us. And so I am looking forward to the fruits of your labor and seeing what develops from this academy. Thank you again. And please feel free to reach out. I believe Jamie and I mentioned our contact information in the chat. If there's anything that crosses your mind, there's no question too small. We're here to help you in any way that you see needed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we're going to move on. And we are happy to have Miss Dominque Higgins here with us. Yay. Thank you, Dominique, for being with us again this Wednesday.
Of course.
You know, it's just wonderful. I love it, guys. Love it. Hopefully you guys are excited too about the information that you're receiving, getting the nuggets of information again, and you can see the common thread, common information, common goal that every speaker is talking about: being prepared, knowing your financials, and where you're at, making sure you have a plan. And even if you're not ready now, you have the foundation to be ready for your next project and things of that nature. So, it's nothing special that we're talking about, but just making sure that you understand those steps and how to get there and providing resources. Okay. All right. Miss Dominique, do you want to have anything to say right now?
Not now, no. I
Okay.
think that was a great kind of overview, for sure. Yeah, just to know the
Absolutely.
resources out there. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, we are going to keep moving on and go into our session. Let's see. I do want to go back just a little bit, what we talked about on Monday. Like I said, building your team. Be thinking about your team and what to look for and things like that. Hopefully you guys are following along in your workbook, whether it's right now or when you get free time to really kind of sit down and look through it. Do some of the exercises that are in there, because that's really going to make you think. It's going to make you put thoughts down on paper and give you that roadmap. And one of the things in the workbook was build your team. So it gives you just kind of a list, and it might not be the whole list, but it's going to get you started of who you need to have on your team. And again, of course, you need a lender, however that's going to be. Not only a lender, but it could be, that lender could be in a form of family, as we talked about, your traditional lending, hard money lenders, you know, private investors. So meaning that, hey, maybe it's somebody that you connect with, even on this call and things like that, and you guys come together. So you definitely want to have that person that you can communicate and talk to comfortably. It's just as important to pick the people that you can communicate with as it is for them to have the necessary skills that you need. So the other people, please take a look at the list. I don't want to go through the whole list with you guys, but hopefully you do utilize that and just think about the people and make sure that you do your research on them. And we talked about that, doing your research on them. But I just want to make sure that you guys are in the workbook, and it's going to give you probably a little bit more clear idea of who should be on your team, right? Okay. Any questions on anything so far? All right. And we talked about how to attract some of those people, how to look for some of those people, things like that. And again, it's all about getting out there. I can't stress that enough. You're going to have to come out your comfort zone, talk to people, find out what's going on, who do they recommend, word of mouth, looking up their information, things of that nature. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research, but anything worth having is worth working for. So, all right. And as we was talking about funds. You know, that is one of the sources that for us is probably one of the harder things to do, is get those funds, and how much do I need and where do I go and how do I apply? So that's what we want to talk about today, is kind of locking down your funds. So hopefully, if you haven't done it already, you will do it. Go in and look at your financials. And as even Miss Marissa talked about, is looking at seeing what you can cut out, where you can save, and making sure that your credit report is as clean as it can be. Making sure you get a copy of that credit report and seeing if there's items on there that needs to be removed and taken off. Because again, you notice even though L Homes is not your traditional, they still do look at what you got going on. They want to see, you know, what is your credit looking like, or your history, what are you bringing to the table? So it's still important to do those things. And it's all about the preparation. So don't be scared to look at your credit. Don't be scared if it's not where you want it to be. It's just all about a goal, setting a mission, making sure that you go through it, and whatever you can get cleaned up quickly, you can, and things that might take a little bit more time, set yourself a goal and a timeline to get those things done. But it does take discipline. I ain't gonna lie, it takes a lot of discipline to get your. It's easy to mess up your credit, very hard to get it back together, and understand that don't be hard on yourself because stuff happens in life. We have to do what we can do when we do it. And one of the things that my generation, I feel, did not learn growing up, and it's not because a lack of, but we just didn't know, is financial literacy. So make sure you have the opportunity now and the tools to learn financial literacy and to practice it. And then make sure you pass it on to the next generation so they won't be in the same pitfalls that we are. And it takes them longer in life to get to where they need to be at. Okay. All right. Again, going back to our workbook, locking down your money partners. Does anybody want to share of who they think their money partner might be, or what it might look like, or who they're thinking about they want to go with? You don't have to share. I know financials is one of them things that people don't want to talk about openly. Like, don't be counting my pocket.
Well, I use somewhat small local bank, but they actually, it's funny as comes up as I have to figure something out like today, tomorrow, because it's Citizens Union Bank, and they had some their commercial lenders were really good to work with, really good and easy to work with once you kind of got in with them, really almost kind of doing pre-approvals, talking about a deal over the phone. And to the extent where I almost was a little bit concerned my first deal I did with them, because compared to the like traditional Fannie Freddie, but they're a portfolio lender, so they're able to do they have more, since they're not going to resell the loan. They don't have to meet all these different criteria. They just have to feel confident that the deal makes sense, and if it makes sense and they think you're going to be able to pay it back, they do the deal. That being said, all their commercial lenders just left, and they just got took over by a bank called German American Bank within this past week. So but the point being, a small local bank that's a portfolio lender is kind of opened some things up and made it really easy for me to kind of go out and make offers and do things because of how easy it is. At least it was to work with them. So we'll see if that continues.
Right. I definitely know what you're talking about. One of my clients was using them as well, who's an investor. And it was it was very, once they got rolling, it was, hey, call them up on the phone and this is what we want to do, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, go do it. We was like, what? So yeah, absolutely. So don't discount smaller banks because they might have a little bit more flexibility than the bigger banks do.
Yeah, so I got nervous because it's like, I'm used to sending so much paperwork and doing so much, and I wouldn't see that dude until closing. He'd show up, sign up, and we'd be good. So it is mind blowing how things open up on the commercial side, especially with lenders that don't have to do all the stuff that needs to happen for them to be able to resell your loan as a security. So yeah. And for those that might not know, what he means by reselling is that a lot of banks will do the loan, but they don't keep it, they don't service it, they will sell it in what they call a secondary market. And when that happens, those loans have to be pretty much kind of uniform and not special. That way they can sell them in bulk or things like that, and don't have to worry about it. But when you start specializing loans and stuff like that, that's when a lot of companies or banks or financial institute will keep
that loan because they can do special things with it. And it's a certain amount that they keep and a certain amount that they sell off. So the ones that they keep, they tend to have flexibility on what they do and how they do it. So it just really depends. That's why it's always really good to shop around. And you don't have to ask that question. You just have to be ready to see what kind of financing that they do have and what are they offering and does it fit with what you're doing. Okay. Anybody else want to share any lending partners or partners that they are thinking about partnering up with?
Sure.
Yeah, Will, hey. Come on, Will.
Well, I've been sitting, waiting, trying to find properties you can get outbid on the fixer-uppers all the time, but I got pre-approved to River City Bank. So they had a product investment properties, just 20% down, and they'll fund up to the 80% for repair cost. So it was a good product. Still waiting, but so yeah, it was easy. Fill out all my information. They do give you the option if you're a business as well to have that same criteria, and we're just waiting to try to get a property.
Amen. Absolutely. So, guys, you just heard of two lenders, River City and Cub, which has been taken over. We'll see what they do in the future, but absolutely, lenders that are a little bit different, a little bit more flexible maybe, or used to working with investors and developers and things like that. So they understand the market and what you have to go through and things like that, and can be a little bit more flexible in terms, along with L Home, the deal and the loan that they was talking about, that it's only for a year, and it does have 11% interest rate. Now, that might be scary, 11% interest rate, but if you think about it, if you don't plan on having that house for a year or a year and less, then how much are you really paying out on that loan? So the idea, especially when you are rehabbing a house and flipping it, is that, of course, time is money, but you want to get it done and you want to get it on the market and get it sold, right? So in terms of being able to finance at a lower rate and having the funds right there when you need it, that 11%, and always do your math, 11% might not be as bad because you're going to turn it around pretty quickly, right? You're going to turn it around pretty fast. But you might want to compare that with, some of the other lenders and things like that or whatever to see. So that's always something to think about. Your timeline might dictate which financing that you take on. If you've got a short timeline and you can get to it quickly and the stipulations are not that bad, you might take that. But if you need a longer timeline, then that might not be the loan that you want to take on, because again, after that 11th month, that 12th month, what she means about balloon means that everything that is due after the payments you've paid, everything is due, whatever that bulk amount is due right then and there. Right. And it still might benefit you. Maybe you have a strategy for when it does come due that, hey, you've got another loan waiting that can pay that one off. Excuse me. Or like you said, what she spoke about is if you have that house and you bought it at $30,000, but once you do all the repairs and fixing it up, it's going to appraise for 120. And you only put 60 in it, so that money and that difference, you'll be able to pay that loan off because they're going to let you borrow up to a certain amount on that appraisal. Okay. So absolutely make sure that you do think about your partners. Take it seriously.
And if I can ask, you and Will sharing those details remind me of a couple other points I want about the Cub product. Just really interesting things. One was, to the point. These loans were 20% down for the purchase price, 100% rehab, and I've done one with them where the rehab part of the loan was more than the purchase. part of it. So we've done things like that. What's also interesting is I was able to, they was able to get like up to 70% of that rehab draw, meaning the money, like most, and I don't know if we talked about this in some, when you get the rehab loan, what happens is you do the rehab and then you request a draw and get the money back. I'm up to 70% of your rehab amount, I've been able to get back with pictures via email. So just talking about the simplicity of it. I need an appraisal not an appraisal, but an inspection to get that last 30%. But I've been able to kind of just shoot some pictures, send an email, and get 70% of that rehab budget just dropped into my account same day, next day. So that's it. And then term wise, haven't done one recently, but it was typically 20-year in the mid 4s. So hopefully I'll be able to report back next week on how things are if these things are still in play. Going to them to try to get a pre-approval tomorrow, but so I'll report back and let them, if people are interested in that and in that bank, because like I said, I found them really, really interesting, but also, forgot to share those details. Last detail I forgot. Also, most of these, because I'm buying and holding rental properties, but for the rehab period, the first 6 months has been interest only as well. So a lot of really friendly, investor friendly terms built into this product. So again, we'll see if it still exists, but those are some details I thought were interesting and potentially compelling if you're looking to do something similar.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good information. Yes, I would welcome you to come back and share if you want to share with us what's going on with it. That's awesome. And guys, don't be afraid of the financial jargon, if you will, and the information and things like that. Again, maybe a person to have on your team is a real estate agent. And I will tell anybody this, whether you're my client or anybody on this group or whatever, if you don't understand, ask. I don't care, because again, this is your time, it's your money, your investment, things like that. And the only way you're gonna learn is if you ask. I wasn't born with, knowing real estate terms and stuff like that. I had to ask, and I don't know what that means. I'm still asking questions. But that is what the people that are in your team and on your team, that is what they're there for, is for you to ask questions. So if you're not sure, make them stop, take time, ask questions. Hey, I don't understand what that means. How does that help me? How does that hurt me? Ask the questions that you need to ask. And I would tell you to do that with a real estate agent, an attorney. If your loan officer is sitting down in front of you and you don't understand what they're saying, stop them right there and make them explain it to you down to the simplest. Explain to me like I'm first grade, And then once you start being in the industry and understanding the terms and terminology and things like that, it's going to come to you real quick. So don't be afraid of doing it. And I just wanted to say that because I know sometimes the language and terminology can be a little daunting, but don't be afraid of it, because you're going to hear it over and over again, and you do need to get comfortable with it, especially if you're going to be a developer or a flipper or anything like that. Because that financial piece, yes, finding the money is great, but once you have it, and like you said, once you're ready to sit down and put your name on that money, what are the terms and what does that mean? How do I pay it back? When is it due? If I'm fixing up a house or a property, I'm, doing from the ground up, how do I get money from the bank to finish up? What are they requiring each step of the way? As Eddie was explaining, is that as he's fixing this up, the bank, the financial institute requires him to, at a certain point, to get an inspection done so he can get the rest of the money, things of that nature. So be aware of that. Ask those questions before you put your name on that loan, because after you do it, there is no, I didn't know or I didn't understand. That will not hold up in the court of law. They're going to look at it and say, you signed it, right? It's a legal and binding document. So be prepared. understand what you're doing, understand what you're going on. And if it does not feel right and you don't like it, you don't like the terms, before you sign, stop. Do not sign if you don't feel good about it, okay? Or if you just need more understanding on it. That is what they are there for. So don't let nobody rush you into anything. And don't have anybody make you feel like you have to do it right now. You have to do this. Now, mind you, they might tell you rates might go up and down. But other than that, you do it on your time and when you're comfortable. And I think that's another thing that Miss Marissa spoke about, is that most loan officers, bankers, and things like that know the numbers. They know the programs already because they deal with it every day. So they should not have to look at a computer to tell you what's going on and what kind of deals and things that they have, okay? So just want to put that little nugget there in your head too. Do we have any questions or anything else?
I do have
Okay.
one thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Comment made me think about some. So with some of these loans, when they do it either 6 months or 1 year, and you might have to, pay, if it's 6 months, you might have to pay some fees, or they may want you to pay all the interest up to that point. One thing to keep in mind from some of my friends that have had properties right now is if you're waiting on hardware, that is something that is kind of, there's been a lot of delays right now, in particular windows and siding. I've talked to some people, they've been waiting since October for windows. So if you get a project, keep that in mind, that it could go longer. And if you have the option of doing a longer term up front, you might want to do that during your rehab.
Yep, very good point. Very good point. I kid you not, guys. I have a client that investor. We did the deal in December. We signed the documents on December 23rd. And this is just to get the property. We ain't even talked about starting to rehab it and things like that. But because of COVID and staffing issues and things like that, we're just now going to close on that deal Friday. So it happens even on the real estate side, buying the property. So definitely it's going to happen on your material side. It's going to happen on your construction side, the people that are working and things like that. It's just kind of the day and age that we're in right now. So if you can plan the best that you can and work some additional time in there, if you can, that's probably going to be the best thing to do. Okay. But it does happen. So be prepared. It can be a little frustrating, but it is something that you can overcome, and you can move forward from it. All right. Okay. Let's keep on going. I would say sit down and think about those lenders. Think about those people that you want to do business with, that can contribute to what you're trying to do, and do your research on them, right? Make sure that you are looking for what fits your needs. And how do you know that? Because you should have already sat down and done your financials. So if you know, hey, me personally, and to keep my life going separate from my business, I can only contribute this much to my project. And then after that, only so much more. Then depending on what project you want to do, you understand that, hey, you need to look for financing that is this amount. And again, it could be financing with the bank. They could do so much. With L Homes could do so much. A partner can do so much. So again, that's bringing that whole team together. But when you do have partners that are not your financial lenders and financial institutes, if you're bringing on a partner, again, make sure that that is in writing and who is giving how much and what they're looking for on their return. If they're going to be a silent partner or they're going to be truly involved in the project. things of that nature, because that does play a part in how you make decisions on your project, what's happening, things of that nature. Just make sure that you guys are all on the same page and you're able to articulate your vision and what you want to have happen and which way that you're going with it, and make sure that they are all on the same page with that. Okay, because that is, man, it's truly important. Okay, we gotta, let's see. I think you guys are talking in the chat. I don't think you need me.
Sorry.
No, that's exactly what it's there for. Exactly what it's there for. Share. Hopefully by the end of this course that everybody's going to be sharing and getting together, and when can we meet up and let's talk about this project, and I've got ideas on this, or hey, can I ask you a question, things of that nature. So we will make sure that we get that spreadsheet together too. So if you want to contribute your name and telephone number for people to ask questions to you, or you can put out there what you're looking for. That way we can share information at the end of this program. Because again, this is a great resource to help each other also. Okay. All right. Any questions? Go ahead.
Would you use like a group chat, or was it more, would that work with people wanting to kind of communicate through a group chat session? Like using GroupMe or WhatsApp or one of those different ones?
We can. It's up to you guys. Yeah, however we want to do that. This is a free-flowing class. And Miss Jonisha, look, she's on it. Love her. Said we have a course GroupMe already. So there you go. She's thought of it already. So absolutely. We can do that and make sure we keep in touch with everybody and ask questions. Okay. When we talk about lenders, and like I said, we talk about finding the right financing for you. When you do go to talk, of course, one of the things after you've done the pre-qualification and they've looked at everything and say, yeah, we're ready to go. This is what we offer. We got this great, loan that we think will be perfect for you. Well, we'll see. So when you sit down with them and you talk with the loan officer and things like that, a couple of things that you do want to take a look at is, what is the interest rate? What is the term? Because that's going to be truly important. And how often do you have to pay back, or how much money you can get out? If you do want to use the appraisal to get money out, how does that work? And how much of that appraisal amount can I borrow? And if you look at the workbook, there's a couple of items in that workbook that tells you, hey, what to sit down and ask for and make yourself a note. And I definitely would, as you're comparison shopping, make yourself a little cheat sheet. So, at this company, talk about this type of loan, they have this interest rate, these terms, and this is how much I get back. And this is when everything is due. You definitely want to make sure that you do that. That way you can kind of go back and look and see which one works best for you. And you don't have to try to remember everything. You have that information right there in front of you. And again, make them explain it to you if you don't understand or you have questions. And even if you come back the next day and say, I got more questions about it, that's okay. That's what you're there for. You are there to make an informed decision, so I cannot stress that enough, is to make sure that you ask. And if you do look at, our workbook, some of the questions, what are the rates? What are the loan terms? What are their maximum LTVs? And that means loan to value ratio. What are their fees? That's a good one too. Everybody may not charge the same thing. Different financial institutes set their own rates. So, and some of the hard money lenders might have different fees than a local branch. So you do want to sit down and ask them, hey, what kind of fees do you have? because you don't want to get to the table and you sign on the document and you think you're about to pay this much, and then come to find out they tacked on all these fees that you didn't wasn't aware of, and they kind of high, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's more money than I wanted to pay. So absolutely, fees are very important. Okay, and we did put in the chat the group me. So if you guys take a look at the chat, that is in there. Origination fees, origination points. And I'm not gonna go too deep into that, but it can help or hurt, just depends on what you need. And I will have a loan officer explain origination points to you. Let's see, what else? Turnaround time. Is there an appraisal that's required? Is there an inspection that's required? And things like that, or whatever. And of course, inspections are going to be structures that are already there. But it could be, if you're building from the ground up, that you might have to have different requirements from the bank. They might need, like I said, a soil sample or soil test. They might ask you, who is your architect and things like that. So there's a lot of different questions that they can ask, and ask you to present paperwork on and things like that. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Just know up front, when you go sit down and talk to these lenders and your partners and your investment partners, what do they require of you? And what kind of paperwork do you need to present? That way you can be ready. Again, it's all about the preparation and being ready for what's about to happen. And trust me, it does make a difference. Me as being a real estate agent, one of the first things that I do with my clients is, let's get the financials together first. So let's find out where you're at. Let's get with the loan officer. Let's look at different things and see if you are ready to even go look at a house yet. Because without that, I cannot begin to search on what price range we need to be in until I know where you're at. So there never hurts to be prepared. Never hurts. I have never heard of somebody saying, oh, I was prepared. It didn't work for me. It didn't help me. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? And one of the guest speakers that we was going to have, he was going to speak on construction. That was from US Bank. Unfortunately, they wasn't able to be here tonight, but he will be with us on Wednesday, next Wednesday. He will be with us to talk about the construction process. And I know those that are interested in building from the ground up, I think one of the items first started was somebody had a project, a piece of land, and they wanted to put 8-unit property on there. So he's going to tell us a little bit about how to do that. And then also what all goes with a construction loan, right? And that is some information that is going to be very helpful to me too, because I'm not versed on that. So I'm going to be listening intently on that as well. But he is going to be here next week on Wednesday to help us go through a construction loan. And that's going to be really amazing. That's going to be some good stuff. And his company, like I said, US Bank does do construction loans. So that's going to be another resource for you and a person that you can reach out to at US Bank. Whether you use them or not, it's still a resource. Do your homework. And that's going to be great. Also, we will have on Monday, we're going to talk to a commercial real estate agent who does a little bit more than me. And that's going to be Mr. William Starks. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of G Starks Realty. He will be here with us next week as well. And he's going to talk to us about, hey, what does that commercial property look like? What do you need to ask questions about? And is it something that you even want to get into? So definitely. So those are going to be some of our speakers next week. So it's going to be great information. Hopefully you all can join us as well. And I did want to give Miss Higgins an opportunity. If she wants to add anything, feel free.
Yeah, I just want to check in with everybody. Are there any questions so far, not just about financing, but in general for everything that has been covered? Because I know it's a lot of information, and so it'd be helpful just to hear where people find a question mark, like if there are any questions out there. Any?
We have a general question.
Yeah.
As far as doing a project out of town, and dealing with financing, would you say, or what's been the experience with that? Would you have to typically get a lender in your home state, or would you search for a lender outside of your home area if you wanted to work on a project at a distance?
So that's a great question. I would typically, so with lenders that specialize in real estate development and flipping, there are actually a few that work across many different states. And so it will really depend on who is in your local area, and also who covers your local area. So for example, I know some hard money lenders that my clients use, and they work not only in California, but also all across the Southeast. So it really would just depend on the individual lender that you're talking to. I would say, again, there's a benefit for going with lenders that are bigger because they have that greater flexibility. But then too, lenders that are smaller, I mean, they will know the area better, and they'll be able to kind of get an address, get a property, vet it a lot more quickly, and kind of give you the sign off on it. So it all really depends. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? How do people feel with what they've learned so far? It seems, I'm like looking at the group chat, everyone's blowing it up. So that's good.
I think so far has been really good, and I'm glad there's, the wealth of knowledge that's been revealed during our calls, and just some knowledge from the other people that have been doing this in the chats. I think those are helpful, and I think what's going to really happen is when we get done with the class and you're like, all right, you want to go do something, that's when it's going to really hit. You can be like,
that's when that's when it's going to get real. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then I know the gentleman was speaking earlier about how it felt a little uneasy, how easy it is to get financing. And that honestly is the case with hard money lending when it comes to real estate development, especially when you are working with portfolio lenders, because it's their money. You'd be shocked to see a lot of people are more surprisingly more laid back. And so long as the numbers make sense and the deal makes sense, they're more than willing to do those types of loans. So it is something that is very different. And it's something that would probably be my first point. That'd be the first place I'd point you out to go for financing, is finding lenders like that, for sure.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. There is a question in the chat. It says, on a business loan, how is the credit score determined? Business loans, pretty much, again, they're not going to look at your business credit most of the time. Most of the time, they're going to look at your personal credit. So you still have to meet their criteria, whatever financing company that you go with, on what score that they want you to have. So it's still kind of going to be based off of your personal until you do establish your business credit. And business credit is a kind of a different animal to get that established. There are several steps that you do have to go to. It's not the same as your personal. You know how you pay your bill, you get a loan, they report it to the credit bureau. So it's a little bit different with business credit. And we are definitely going to dive into that and kind of explain that business credit side. But most financial institutes are going to look at your personal credit score. So and the financial institute is the one that determines what credit score that they're going to look at. Most don't go lower than about a 620. You do have some that go lower. Like I said, private hard money lenders might go lower than that. Again, that's their criteria. And then you did just here at El Home, they go lower as well. They go, what was it, 560, 540? So they looking at, yeah, your credit, but they also looking at other things as well. So they go as low as a 540. So absolutely it's just different from financial institute to financial institute, but that is one thing that's part of that criteria when you sit down with a loan officer and the person that you're getting the financing from to ask them what is their criteria and what pre-qualifications do you have to meet. Okay, information, if you do miss a class, we do have it on our Google Drive. And if we do need to send that link out again, we can get that out to you. But yes, all of the classes are recorded. Any information that we do put out, we try to make sure that that is also housed there. So that way, if you need a refresher or you did miss it, or you just want to go back and kind of replay it, it is there for you. So yes, and you do have access to that. And Miss Jonisha, she put that in our chat for us on the website at the LCCC news.org. That information is there for you. Okay, any other questions? You're welcome. Any other questions? I was going to ask too, is anybody thought about or narrowed down possibly any more about what their project is going to be? I know we talked about it probably first 1 or 2 classes, and we had some really good ideas out there. Just trying to see if anybody else has thought about what they want to do, or excuse me, anybody that has changed what they want to do. Feel free to share.
You know, I was thinking about the tiny house project I was telling you about.
Right.
But you know, I'm gonna say this: dealing with family, you live in sometimes you live in a fairy tale, you know. And so now my ideas are changing.
Okay.
So I'm now considering the house that sits on the half acre, just tearing that down. And just putting the 10 units that the city will allow me to put up. And then from there, just going on to other building projects.
Awesome. That is wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else that wants to share? I tell you what, like I said, it once you start rolling and thinking about things like that, you can change up. It just happens, you know. So don't be afraid of changing up your ideas. If you was going one way, but now you want to go a different way. There is plenty out there to do for everybody. So don't feel like, man, the market is saturated. Actually, it's not. And that is one of the things that we're running into in the community, that there is not enough housing. You know, our young lady shared with us last meeting of how much housing is still needed out there. And we're not the only ones in that boat. It's happening across the country, but absolutely there is plenty out there to do. Plenty of projects that you can pick up and do. So don't feel like that, hey, there's not enough in the market. Actually, there's not enough housing in the market. So there's plenty of room for everybody out there. Any questions? Any other comments? Go ahead, Will.
Of course, you know, I always have something to complain about.
We welcome that. We welcome it.
All right. So we've had the discussion a couple of weeks. We keep throwing around this ADU deal. So I went and did a little research, and it sounds, I like it, but there's still some things that from the aspect of what I think a lot of us may have been thinking about, it doesn't look like you can do. One key sentence that I found in there basically says that, well, one thing, 800 square foot is the max size. But the other thing is it's supposed to be your primary residence in one or the other of the building. So you can't do it to where if you have an investment property and you wanted to put an ADU on it, from what I've read, and everybody do their own due diligence, you have to be living in one of those two properties or one of those two buildings. So that kind of threw a wrench in the game of some of the things that I was thinking about doing. I actually was talking to somebody about purchasing the property and going to look at it this weekend. And that was one of the things I wanted to do because it was a small house, like only 800 square foot. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can put an ADU on there. But then looking at this, looks like that's not something you can do. Now, granted, I think there probably is some kind of way around it because I've seen people have a house and they build a garage and then they have an apartment or something above it. So, and that's not your, and that was before this whole ADU thing. So there's something probably in there somewhere deep in the rules that I may have to find, but just a heads up, I would read that, you know, straight from our planning and designing website. I dropped it in the chat. And, you know, see what you guys find out. But I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you know, especially since Louisville was just coming into doing that, they probably don't want to jump head first and be like, yeah, everybody do it all. But I guarantee you that it probably will pick up steam. And as people, because you only have one primary residential, everything else after that is either secondary or an investment. So after you built that one, it's like, what else do you do?
And here's the bonus kicker that make it even more sad. From what I was reading, it seems like you cannot make it like an Airbnb either.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. And you can only have one. You can't have several.
Right.
Yeah. At any point, Miss Tiffany, will we be discussing architectural designs and dealing with people that will have to help you kind of put something together for your buildings?
Okay. I'll put that on our list and see if we can get one of our partners. I know we've got, you know, a couple of partners that work in construction, and that will be one of the questions for them, if they can expand on that for us and also recommend some people that we could use. So absolutely, I'll make sure that we have that.
Yeah, because with my project that I've been looking at for like the past 20 years, that has been the brick wall for me when it comes to dealing with architectures, you know, and the cost of plans and stuff like that, because the cost of plans are very expensive.
Yeah.
You know, and how can that be worked into the deal, into the construction deal that you're trying to do?
Good question.
I'm sure somebody out there has a 8-unit that they built before that can probably sell you the plan. But what I also would do if I were you is I sometimes look at the apartment layouts like I'm going to rent an apartment and just kind of see how those are laid out.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've got online and I've looked at quite a few designs and things that I think may work. But, you know, when it comes to the numbers of the size and the setbacks and the offsets, I'm gonna need a little more, you know, expertise in that field.
Right. Absolutely. And that is one thing to understand, that when you are doing construction and you are getting an architect to take a look at it, they can give you the design, but are they giving you all the paperwork that goes with it? So be very mindful and very careful about that you want all of it. And it can be costly. It can be expensive. So that is a great question on if that can be worked in the deal and things like that. Absolutely. So I'll make sure that when we do bring those partners on, that we specifically ask those questions. Good one.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And again, more information in the chat. Miss Nakia, she provided information about tiny homes. And if you do need a vendor, she has one. She has one for you. So again, networking, sharing information.
Hey, Miss Tiffany.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I was looking into something through, I think it was through the Plan Room in One West. It was BIM. like a building model type program where they teach you how to do designs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for somebody to get back to me with some information, but my understanding is it's a free course, so that may be something that you can look into. But if I get more information, I'll share it with the group.
Awesome. I think we have somebody that actually went through the group. Miss Carletta, are you on? I don't know if she's available. But I know she did do a course, and I think it was through the plan room, if I'm not mistaken, that actually did that, taught you how to look at the designs and read them and things like that. And it is a full-blown course. So absolutely, we are planning on having them come on as well. And that is definitely, they can tell us more about that program. And Ms. Jonisha, she did put that information in there too, building information modeling.
Yeah, we actually, LCCC was a partner for that initiative.
Yeah.
We did, I think, the first couple of weeks of that training. So it absolutely is a free training. It was a great program. They had, I want to say 12 graduates that actually went through, and they're actually working within firms in that area. So it's a great program.
Absolutely. So again, you see how the organizations are trying to bring the need to the community on things that maybe we was not aware of or just didn't have access to. And we definitely need to continue to push forward, learn what we need to learn, and get into some of these areas that we have not been privy to previously. And again, that is going to strengthen our communities and grow our wealth, not just for us, but also future generations as well. So that way we do have a voice in what's happening in our community and what's getting developed, and making sure that we benefit from that development. It's great to have development, but why is everybody else benefiting from it? We should be benefiting from it as well. So again, these organizations, the Plan Room, Home, LCCC, all those great organizations, AMP, you see Market Millionaires, they are all working together to build, bring up, teach, train, and get everybody ready for the next level. So that is definitely the goal here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But I do have that down. And like I said, we'll have them on as well to give us more information about that as also. Got it in my notes, guys. Anything else? Good participation, good participation. Anything else, guys? Any questions on lenders or who's, and I'm not particular to one lender or another, but I do look at lenders who have products. So I'm looking more at their product, not so much as the actual company, as long as that they are in good moral standing, things like that. But I want to see what are your products? How can you help with your product? So I don't have one company or another that I look to. I just kind of look at their products and see what they have to offer. And how does that help whatever situation that my client or myself might be in? And how does that benefit? So absolutely, with financing, the end game is how does this help what I'm trying to do and giving me the best rates that I can get for my product. Any other questions?
Have we discussed bidding for vendors? Is there any type of avenue you can go to where you present your project and several people will bid on your project, or do you have to do that individually? Or would it be best to do it individually?
You're speaking something like maybe crowdfunding?
Like, let's say if you were using a concrete company or using a somebody who's going to do the electrical work or the plumbing work. Would you call around the different locations and get the cost of that? Or is there somewhere where you could just say, I have a project that is needing this is what the project needs. I'm looking for offers on that of who can do it at a reasonable price.
I am not aware of a website that you do that with. I know a lot of people would throw basic information out there on Facebook, and then you get all the feedback and stuff like that or whatever. But unless somebody else is aware, I'm not aware of any bidding process that is done that way.
Okay.
Is anybody else aware?
No, I'm not aware of anything like that. No.
Only for like shipping, but not other things.
Right. As far as with the real estate and contractors, I have not heard of anything like that, but it's kind of a good idea. I don't know, that might be a niche for somebody.
Well, I think
Hey, my brain's over here twerking now. It's over here working.
What's it? I think I haven't used it, but I thought Angie's List had, or whatever they call it now, Angie has something like that, but not 100% sure.
Right. And I know what Thumbtack, I don't know if that's might be one, something like that.
I think there's one for like handyman, but that they I don't think it would do electrical or something like that. Like something that requires a permit.
Right. So absolutely, you're right. I haven't heard of any resource. I'm not saying that it's not out there. I'm just not aware of any that you could do that with. Put your project out there and then they bid and you take the bid. And I know government does that, but I'm not aware of anything. So if you do something like that, of course, make sure that you have your criteria set on what you're looking for in that company. Like we already talked about, insured, license, what kind of projects have they done? Do they have documentation of those projects that you can actually see? Can you actually go visit some of the projects that they've done? Things of that nature, so you can see their work. And again, of course, checking with the BBB, Better Business Bureau. That is still a good revenue source. Information source on people. Not every company is with them, and you don't have to be, but if they are listed, why not look it up? But that's a good question. Good question. I have not heard of that. Most people just kind of get names of the companies and then, talk to them individually and then take the best bid. Any other questions? Thank you. Good stuff. Okay. Well, guys, like I said, I don't keep you just to be keeping you. We will go ahead and wrap up. Like I said, our next meeting will be on Monday. And that's March the 14th, 5 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel. And we will be going over, your project. And we'll be talking to a commercial real estate agent. Don't get me wrong, he does residential also, but he is very versed in commercial real estate as well. So this is an opportunity asked about, commercial properties and everything like that. So any questions that you have, and then of course, we also have US Bank coming. I think that is it right now for our speakers for next week. But definitely on Monday, we'll be going over some information about real estate. Woohoo! All right. There is a little bit more information in our chat. There's a Facebook group called Louisville, Kentucky Real Estate Investment Club, where you can offer bids. Oh, and like I said, Miss Jonisha, she's on it, guys. She has put also in the chat where you can add your information. If you want to share, contact group of people, things of that nature or whatever, feel free to fill that out. So she has got that up and running for us just that quick. See, you asked and we try to get it for you. All right. If we don't have any other questions or need anything else, we will conclude tonight. And there's more information in there, 9,000 for a rent style. So there you go. We will conclude for tonight. If you do think of any questions, bring them. Bring them. And I hope everyone has a great night, and we will see you back on Monday.
Thank you.
See ya. Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
guys.